Thank you. It was great talk, Bruce, and thank you, Andy, for the introduction. My name's Jess, current acting director, but my substantive position is actually the manager of threatened species. I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we are meeting on today and all of the lands across Australia. One other thing that I just wanted to mention before I go into this, I'm going to talk about a few programs. I'm going to talk about it from the delivery of national parks, but none of this is delivered solely by national parks. Everything is delivered in partnership, whether that's partnerships with species experts, within government, with NGOs, Aboriginal community. Everything is delivered in partnership. So I'll start with a bit of a background. Our reserve our Parks Estate is essentially made up of 896 reserves, covering over 7.6 million hectares of land. It encompasses a wide range of ecosystems, including arid shrublands, coastal heathlands, sclerophyll forests, subalpine woodlands, you name it, we've pretty much got it. And although it accounts for less than 10% of New South Wales landmass in total, the reserve system supports habitat for 85% of our threatened species in New South Wales. And this concentration really highlights the importance of a reserve system in conservation lands in maintaining and restoring biodiversity and securing long-term species persistence in the landscape. So the scale and diversity and ecological significance represented within our reserve system gives us a tremendous responsibility in managing that land, but it also gives us a really good opportunity. And this is why a few years ago we launched the Threatened Species Framework for Zero Extinctions. So New South Wales National Parks, we launched this in 2021. We're the first parks agency in Australia to adopt a zero extinctions target. It is a long-term commitment with some pretty bold objectives and these are centred around some key delivery principles. Being preventing extinctions of species within our parks, improving the trajectory of threatened species through targeted conservation action, and integrating threatened species priority into all facets of park management, including in decision-making processes around reservation of new lands for conservation purposes. So it isn't a standalone program, it's a system-wide shift in how we approach species conservation within our parks. And I'll touch on just a couple of the flagship programs under the framework. We don't have time to get into everything. So through the framework, we're establishing a network of 10 feral predator-free areas across New South Wales, aimed at restoring functioning ecosystems by expanding the fox and cat-free areas within our parks to over 65,000 hectares. This project will enable the reintroduction of locally extinct mammals and provide measurable conservation benefit for over 50 threatened species that are known to occur in these areas. It's an essential part of the New South Wales Government's conservation strategy to reverse the decline and improve outcomes of threatened species at risk of extinction from predation. It's delivered in partnership with Wild Deserts at University of New South Wales, the Australian Wildlife Conservancy, Australian Genomics Centre at University of Sydney, and other partners supporting captive breeding programs such as the wonderful team here at Taronga. To date, 13 species listed as extinct in New South Wales, as well as 6 locally extinct species such as the New Holland mouse, smoky mouse, Palmer wallaby, brush-tail rock wallaby, plains rat, and others have been reintroduced into New South Wales National Parks under this program. I heard earlier we were talking about policy leading into action, and this is a really good example of this. So following the New South Wales bushfire inquiry and the 1920 bushfire events, New South Wales National Parks amended the National Parks and Wildlife Act to enable the Minister for Environment to declare areas with exceptional environmental and cultural value as what's called assets of intergenerational significance. Now, once these declarations are made, they come with enhanced legal protections and mandate the development of dedicated conservation action plans, including requirements for developing species-specific fire guidance. And for this information to then be integrated into New South Wales Government bushfire planning, risk management and operational response arrangements to ensure that these areas are safeguarded during planned and unplanned bushfire events, as well as other emergency events. This program framework has already proven effective in enabling positive outcomes for threatened species during these type of events. And to date, we've had 360 environmental AIS sites declared, protecting habitat for 132 species across 151 national parks. And whilst our focus has been on the declaration of threatened species habitat, we now have commenced a community-led pilot for the declaration of cultural values. Embedding conservation priorities into park operations is crucial. Weeds, feral animals and fire are some of the most significant threats to biodiversity in New South Wales, with threatened species particularly vulnerable to some of these impacts under a changing climate. In response, National Parks is delivering the largest feral animal control program in the state's history and delivering strategic weed management across the reserve system, prioritising areas where threatened species in ecological communities are most at risk. Going back too far. Cool. Our Bushfire Risk and Evaluation Unit has been established to work alongside the RFS and multi-agency bushfire management committees to strengthen bushfire planning. National Parks plays a leading role in the tenure-blind identification and assessment of environmental and cultural assets, ensuring that those values are embedded into those planning frameworks. And this includes protecting key habitats for threatened species like koalas, safeguarding significant cultural heritage sites, both within our parks but also across the broader New South Wales landscape. So it's not just about national parks. We need to think about this as a holistic approach. National Parks are also delivering on flagship initiatives such as the New South Wales Government Saving Our Species program and the New South Wales Koala Strategy, which drives targeted investment into on-ground conservation, habitat restoration and applied research. These programs are underpinned by strong partnerships with scientists, landholders, local communities and traditional owners, ensuring collaborative, evidence-based actions for species conservation. So together these actions reflect our commitment to integrated science-led park management that tackles some of those key threats and delivers real on-ground outcomes for species. But we also need to understand the health and condition of our national parks as well when we're doing these things. So to combat this, National Parks have implemented our Ecological Health Monitoring Program, or the Scorecards Program, to assess our ecosystem condition across New South Wales National Park using robust and repeatable metrics. The program currently covers 30% of the park estate, and it covers 8 sites broadly representing the state's major ecosystems. It provides essential ecological data to support evidence-based decision-making and inform adaptive management and guide resource allocations. And while the program doesn't directly evaluate management effectiveness, the data it produces can support such assessments by identifying where and how interventions are most needed. So we've published a couple of scorecards already for Royal Heathcote Garrawarra and Kosciuszko National Parks, and we've got a few more coming out. There'll be another 6 that'll be established over the next few years. And we were asked to present a few key challenges. So, our threatened species framework for zero extinctions does set a clear direction for New South Wales parks to protect our native plants and animals at greatest risk of extinction. And it reflects our ambition to ensure that our national parks are not just places where nature is conserved, but where it's places that they can actually thrive. And while we're seeing some positive results, there are some significant challenges. And I'm hoping that we can try and unpack some of this during this symposium. So data deficiencies. Oh, I don't know what's going on now. Now I've gone to someone else's. Well, I'll just talk to it anyway. Data deficiencies and knowledge gaps. It's really critical that we're looking at some of the species that we don't have a lot of research for, and it means that we can't essentially manage them appropriately, or we're using a lot of assumed knowledge. The longevity and consistency in monitoring. Unfortunately, there's a lot of funding cycles, grant programs that are a couple of years in funding, and it's just not long enough. We need multi-year scale of cycles to ensure that we get that consistency. And the other one that I'll just touch on very briefly, because I think I might be running out of time, is just the challenges around managing species in a changing landscape and what that looks like. And how do we divert when do we know we need to divert? Thank you. I was pretty much done anyway. But I hope that we can have some good conversations. And I think there's been some great talks already about, genetic diversity and how do we bring in policy to inform decision making that can help drive some positive outcomes. Thank you.